This weekend I'm running the Havens 10-mile race. It's up in Leavenworth and it's a 5-mile loop that you run through twice. Last night at bar, an interesting real-life word problem came up, and that was if Cody starts the 10-mile race at 8 a.m. and runs at a 6:40 pace, at what point would he catch his brother Shane, who starts the 5-mile at 8:30, half an hour later, and runs at a 9:30 pace? Well, I love this kind of word problem, to try to figure out if Cody takes off and is coming back around and Shane starts, at what point does he catch him? I had to get to work on that. It's a basically catch-up problem, and to do any kind of time distance, the formula we're going to use is distance equals rate times time. And Shane is going to run 5 miles, and Cody's going to run 5 miles twice, the 10 miles. But it's that second 5 miles where they're both running the same distance. But what we need to do is figure out how much of a head start is Shane going to get and then be able to catch him. Looking at the distance, rate, and time for Cody, we know that we're going to assume he's going to run at a 6:40 pace, and that's 6.7 minutes per mile. But what I need is miles per minute instead. So we just convert that by dividing the 6.7 into 1, and his rate is 0.15. For Shane, we know his rate is a 9:30 pace, which is 9.5 minutes per mile. Convert that to miles per minute, and we get a rate of 0.11. Now, because they're running the same distance for that second half, both 5 miles, we know our distances are equal. So what we're going to do is solve for time. At what point is Cody going to catch Shane using that time? So now we just simply plug that in. So we know that time is going to be distance divided by rate. And so to figure out when is Cody going to start his second 5 miles, we take 5 miles divided by his rate, and at that assumed pace that we've plugged in, he'll finish his first 5 miles at 33.5 minutes. And Shane will start the race at 30 minutes in. So now we just plug in the rates and start to solve across. So on Cody's side of the equation, his rate is 0.15, and his time is minus 3.5 minutes, because he's going to start 3.5 minutes after Shane starts. And then we plug in Shane's rate. Then you just start to solve across this, multiply the rate in there, subtract from each side, and then divide out. We know that the time is going to be essentially 12 minutes, 11.875. So once we know that, now we go in and solve for Shane's rate to see how far in the race will that be. So if distance equals Shane's rate times this time that we know, then we know that it's going to be 1.25 miles that Cody will likely catch Shane. Of course, I had to do a chart. Cody starts the race, and then you can see at mile 5, Shane will start at 30 minutes later. Cody's in at 33.5 minutes, and then the point of impact is that 1.25 miles into Shane's race, or 6.25 miles into Cody's race. And then you can see overall that at that rate, Cody would finish 7 minutes after 9, and Shane's total race would be about 47 minutes, but it'll be 77 minutes after Cody starts his race. Kind of a fun, real-world word problem. I'm also running the 10-mile, so I just got to make sure that I run at a pace fast enough that Cody doesn't catch me on my second loop. I just got to start the second loop before he finishes his second loop. And as long as I do that, he won't lap me.